All right, so right now you're not a CEO. You're kind of a babysitter with a title, and you tell yourself you're like leading a team, but most days you're just hand-holding grown adults through problems they already know how to solve. You might call this leadership, but it's really just controlled, diagnosed as product. You wake up super reactive, like with anxiety, your Slack channels blowing up, clients asking questions you've already answered, you have your VAs waiting for permission to do what they were hired to do already, and then every single issue feels like a SOS emergency because you built a business that only works when you do. This is not leadership. This is like firefighting. You know deep down this is the truth. So you think the solution is hiring more people, but then that's just more people. That means more babysitting when there's no system. You think the answer is better communication. That's the right track, but communication without any clarity is just a lot of noise. And when you're stuck in this noise long enough, you start mistaking motion for momentum. Here's the truth. Businesses don't pay you to babysit. They pay you to create direction, to diagnose and then solve problems, and do it fast. Make decisions, build systems, and let those systems make money, especially when you're not looking or when you're sleeping, right? And that's what real CEOs do, or should be doing, right? Every minute you spend hand-holding is a minute you're not designing a machine that's supposed to work without, because without systems, a company isn't a company, it's a glorified adult daycare. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to stop babysitting and start properly leading. This is gonna be the 4-step troubleshooting loop and how Simon used it to buy back 20 hours a week and scale from -3K in his bank account to 15K MRR. So if you've ever felt like the entire business falls apart the second you step away, which chances are it does, right? This is the system that's gonna fix that. So let's get into it. Throw it to me on a different monitor.
All right, so let's talk about like brutal honesty for a second. Most gym owners think that they're running a business, but in reality, they're operating one. And those two are completely different games. When you're operating, your entire day is reaction. You don't start with the day with the plan. You start the day with a lot of problems and fires. You wake up to DMs, missed calls, clients, questions, cancellation texts, staff confusion, and before your feet even hit the floor, you're already behind and have anxiety, right? Here's the really messed up part. You think that it's normal. I've been there, You think that it's hard-working owners. That's what they do. They work 100 hours a week. You think that being the first one in and the last one out, constantly putting out fires is the right thing to do. But let me ask you a real question. If you got sick for 72 hours, not a month, not a quarter, 3 days, would your business keep running, or would it absolutely crumble? Because the answer is probably, it'll crumble. So if it's anything other than not a problem, you're stuck in the operator trap. You're not the CEO. You're the firefighter, the janitor, the accountant, the lead coach, the therapist, the makeshift marketing department, the retention specialist, the DM responder, everything except the actual architect of the business. And that's why you get exhausted, man. And that's why your growth feels capped. And that's why every month feels like Groundhog Day with the same revenue, same problems, the same workload, and the same stress. You didn't build a business, you built a job with worse hours and worse benefits, with crappier pay, right? And so that's the trap. And today, on this video, we're gonna break it. So let me explain why you're basically babysitting adults right now. It's not because your team is dumb, it's not because they don't care, it's not because nobody wants to work anymore, it's because the systems force them to rely on you. So here's what I mean. When something goes wrong, they ask you. When they need clarity, they ask you. When a client complains, they ask you. When someone wants a refund, they ask you. When a lead wants to book a consult but hesitates, guess what? They ask you. When a coach doesn't know how to run an onboarding, they ask you. Right? So you've trained them unintentionally to believe the business requires your brain and yourself to function. And every time you jump in, though, and save the day, you reinforce one belief. If I just wait long enough, the boss will fix it. Congrats. You just built the world's most exhausting feedback loop. And here's the unfortunate punchline. The businesses don't actually need you. It needs clarity. Your business needs structure. It needs systems. The truth is, your team isn't wrong. They just don't have a structure that lets them take initiative without fear of messing up. So they default to the one safe thing, ask the boss. And that's not leadership, that's dependency, and we gotta kill that. So real CEOs, they operate differently. They don't micromanage, they don't babysit, they don't hover, they build direction, they build systems that replace themselves, and they build clarity so that they can run cleanly and run teams without friction. A real CEO wakes up asking one question: is my system, or is the system running? Not what's on fire, not who dropped the ball, not what crisis do I have to solve today. Those are operator questions. The CEO question is the machine working as designed? Right? So system replaces supervision, structure replaces stress, and direction replaces dependency. This is the moment where you stop being the firefighter and start being the architect, right? So now the troubleshooting loop. Everything I'm about to show you fits right into this loop. So diagnose, decide, delegate, document. This is the operating system that removes panic from leadership, and it's the anti-chaos machine. It turns problems into predictable patterns, it turns fires into formulas, and the reason your business feels heavy isn't because you have too many problems, it's because you have no way of processing them. This loop becomes your decision engine, and it becomes the way you think. Not the way you lead, not the way you scale, okay? And I'm gonna walk you through every single piece now. So the diagnose one, pretty simple. Find the root, not the riot. So because most gym owners, they diagnose emotionally. You feel the problem before you understand it. Let me give you an example. So a client's gonna cancel, right? You assure them you assume it's the program. So then your show rate drops. You assume it's leads. Then you have a VA that misses a task. You assume they suck. But none of these are diagnoses. They're reactionary. So what the real question is, what broke? If sales dropped, was it the leads, the show rate, or the close rate? If fulfillment dropped, was it check-ins, expectations, or delivery gaps? If retention dropped, was it onboarding, programming, delivery, accountability, communication rhythm? Never have feelings before facts. Business doesn't operate on emotions. Data first. Data doesn't lie. Emotions later. Because when you diagnose correctly, the solution becomes blatantly obvious and usually very boring. Number 2 would then be to decide. So once you know the root, you decide. Here's the very simple rule. Speed beats perfection. Most gym owners paralyze themselves because they want the perfect answer. Perfectionism paralysis, right? There is no perfect answer. There is no right thing. There is only momentum. So your team doesn't need a committee. They need a compass. They need someone in some way to point them and say, this is where we're going. A wrong decision can be corrected. No decision becomes a bottleneck. The second you delay, though, your team stops and waits. So then everything freezes. And suddenly, you are now the choke point. CEOs choose direction fast, then adjust. Operators wait for the perfect info, and then they stall. So you need to decide fast, move fast, and fix fast. That's the game. Then we have delegation. This is where pretty much every single gym owner falls apart. Because delegation isn't just dumping tasks, it's transferring ownership. And ownership means one person, one metric, one deadline. If 2 people own it, nobody owns it, right? If 3 people own it, it's already dead. You need execution lanes. So an admin virtual assistant handles your DM triage, KPI updating, customer service. Automation VA handles GHL logic to triggers, workflows, pipelines. Coaches handle fulfillment. You handled leadership and sales or revenue, right? That's it. That's delegation without KPI babysitting. Delegation with KPI is leverage because you know what is leaking. Then the last part is documentation. So this is a step that saves your future insanity or fixes your sanity, right? Document everything, every single fix. Every single time something breaks, record a video of it. So when something breaks, you solve it, you write it down, you record it, you log it, and then teach the system, not the person. Documentation builds memory into a machine. It turns every single mistake into a permanent upgrade. It trains new hires automatically based off previous mistakes. It creates consistency. It removes you from the process. So if it's solved once and documented well, it should never have to be solved again from your brain. Now, why this matters is because almost every single problem you have fits inside of it. And the second you realize that, problems stop being all about you. They stop being emotional. They stop being overwhelming. Predictability creates peace. The reason you're stressed is because problem feels chaotic. The second you slot every single problem into this 4-step loop, you now become dangerous and a proper CEO. You stop reacting and you start designing. So now we're going to talk about buying back your time. All right. So we're going to go over a real life example of someone that I worked with. Okay. So we're going to talk about the system that in essence saved Simon's business life. All right. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing is we sat down and I told him to basically block down or write down every single thing that he was doing. And then we optimized it. And then we hired a VA. Okay, that's the really simple TLDR of this, okay? This is more like the visual mumbo jumbo, but this is where your structure creates freedom. So your calendar isn't a schedule. Your calendar is your business model, right? So if your calendar is full of chaos where everything's all over the place, that's not really good, right? So that's going to be chaos. And then if your calendar is structured, your business becomes structured. If your calendar, or if you control your calendar and your time, you control your outcomes. Most gym owners are working 9 to 9, not because they need to, but because they never architected their week properly, right? So if we go through the loop, Simon was doing 12 hours a day, right? So then we designed a new time architecture. And then we got feedback, and then we designed it into something proper. Then we hired him a VA. We created weekly operations, and then etc. Right? So that took him from negative 3K to 15K a month reoccurring, right? But basically, what happens when you actually properly structure your week is before you have calls everywhere, clients like check in at random pockets, random times. That's not effective or efficient. Your training is shoved in between your chaos, which is not effective or healthy for you. Like you sometimes maybe even skip the gym. Your DMs are interpreting like anything that resembles focus or taking everything away. You have 12 hours of activity, but 0 aggregate hours of progress, right? And then after, if you optimize this properly, you have 6 focused blocks, 20 hours a week reclaimed, energy structured, deep work protected, revenue driving tasks prioritized, and your low value tasks delegated. Nothing's changed except for the design, and that design turned burnout into proper bandwidth. So now the delegation engine, because you're probably wondering, like, how do we do that? This is where the OS becomes an actual machine. So you have an admin virtual assistant, that's execution. You could have an automation VA, that's for automation. You, leadership. This is what we did with Simon. You don't have to copy this one-to-one, but every week ends with a Friday ops, like operation review, with a video from both of them, right? And then you would review the KPIs, identify the wins, spot the bottlenecks, and assign the fixes. Then they execute. You update the systems, the machine improves. That means no meetings, no micromanaging, no chaos. It's very unproductive, right? To just go over a meeting to say, like, oh, this is our numbers, right? So you don't manage people, you manage the process, and and then the process scales and optimizes. So freedom doesn't come from time off. Freedom comes from decisions, and really hard ones. That's structure, bandwidth, and peace. Okay, so when you decide your time is worth more, you start protecting it. You stop rescuing people and stop babysitting tasks. You start becoming the operator. You start being the proper owner on your business. You need to bet on yourself. Simon didn't wait until he felt ready. He invested when he was underwater. He trusted structure over chaos, and that decision paid him back with 15K MRR and actual peace of mind. Most gym owners stay broke because they wait until life feels perfect or stable before acting, which is never going to happen. You build stability by acting before you feel ready. So bet on yourself, bet on systems, and bet on structure. Now, if you want this operating system inside of your gym, the exact templates, calendar, system, and backend infrastructure are inside the free 5-step backend playbook. If you want the full OS, the full operating backend, comment or DM me the word, OS, and I'll send you the whole breakdown, the whole deep dive. Okay, I'll give you basically the whole SOP. But my final takeaway from this, if you're still watching this, is stop babysitting. You need to start leading. Systems always beat more leads. You don't need more ads. Systems create freedom. And the second you install this, your entire business is going to change. Now, if you like this video, click the next one on the screen because YouTube thinks you're going to like that as well. Thanks for watching.